Hello, welcome to another episode of iAfrica, the show that celebrates everything African and creative. In this episode, we have the popular Zimbabwean comedian known as Kapfupi. His name obviously is Freddie Manjalima, and one of the co-parenters of comedy in the country. In the second episode, we speak to Eden, who has found recent fame. Started off just by sampling other musicians' works, but now she is a proud musician with works of her own. And in the third and final segment, we speak to House of Stone founder, that is Danayi Madondo, as she tells us the story of sustainable fashion. Please stay with me on today's episode. I am your host, Nicole Jamu.
Africa searches for inspiration and innovation in all areas of popular culture, from fashion and design through to architecture, art, food.
In this segment, we hear the story of Freddie Manjalima, known as Kapfupi.
How are you guys? Murisei. Hey, don't say Freddie Manjalima. Kan Kapfupi. Taare makore mu industry. Arts, music and drama. Ndo patiri ndokutenda chaizvo. Zvinonzi Kapfupi taiti tichitanga madrama tikuyepwedza. Takupana zita kuti inonzi Kapfupi, inonzi Apiri, inonzi Maraba. Ndine basa. Basa rangu ndire Freddie Manjalima. Kuti vanhu vangonakidza kuti zvakamira sei. Ndikura ndiri kumapurazi. Ndakura kumapurazi. Kumara uko. Kuruwa. Ndafera Safirio madzikatiri. Ndo apa apa pangwa. Nimukaona mapfeka ndoita hetiya Safirio. Comedy isong ni comedy. Because I'm doing comedy. Saka ndibana ndiwe mna inspire. Kuti ndoti zvinhu zvo zvidawo. Asina ndiri chikoro. Svika parinasi. Ndichiri kuchikoro. Avabereki vaizviramba kwete kuchena, asi baba chaivo vasati vashaya ndovakazoti aiwa kuna mama musiyei timboona kuti anosvika papi. Asi ndiri munhu wekuti dzimhuka izvo vaiti ndiri benzi kudzinzare kwedu, asi kuzozwa mota vatakapinda yacho nebasa iroro rairambwero aufamba nemota izvozvo. Zvakatora nguva kuti azvitambire, asi baba vangu kuti musiye yakadaro kusvika tazobva kusvika muna First Street daro svika ZBC tati nhongo tiri muna First wabva kuti tabuda paTV zvinzvarese, asi vachiramba kuti achikwa vaiti ndezveurombe. Aiwa hana kuzoda kuzokuimba, asi I think zvakagara zviri mandiri zvemusic nemadrama. Ndichiona kuti bona Safiri madzikatiri because ndimuna ndaitira stereki timwa plus panguva iyo ndifunga ndichiri mwana mudiki stereki ndipatana na Safiri madzikatiri baba nguva dzana parafini panguva iyo asi vakazvitambira iko zvinhu zvakunakira kudaro maprojects atinawo izvozvi. Pane mwana takashuta maimaiso ndifunga end of March, tuna March kupera kwemwedzi richenge richiintroducewa like a film riri kuwaiko zvinezvi. Saka tiri munzira ya ini ndikwanisa kushanda nemunhu wese, anyone. Ndasiyana nemwoyo wandiwo kuti handidi kushanda naningi sai kuramba urashanda naningi iyoyo sada ushazoshanda nani. Ndinoda anyone, kana vemagitare vacho madrama acho vaimbi vakuru vachevo ivo ndokuti ndinovadai hapana ndosarudza. Ndoti pane vechidiki vari kutraya kusumuka paindastry simbai handei zvingaome zvikadii asi kana nechipo chako chinokubhadhara chete nerimwe zuva. Chimwe chandokurudzira iko zvinhu zvavachidiki vacho ndiri kuona vachinotora zvinodhaka. Asandi izvo zvinonzi izvo uimbe, sandi izvo zvekuti tese uite madrama. chipo chako ichocho chaona chicho usachiwedzere nechi nemadrugs because vanyanya iko zvinhu izvi madrugs awandisa. Tikutenda ipapo kuti akomana andei chibasa ichi chine raramo chine upenyu hakusi kuba asi ndoba nepfungwa kuti vanhu vafare munyika yedu yeZimbabwe. Chandokurudzira kwavanoshanda vese hanzi kushanda mumwe chete munogamidzana, asi kukurawo munhu akakurawo akatanda kutangawo chi zvangu anofanira kutanga asi aive nesimba rekupusha kuti kuenda mberi, asi kuparadzana sandiko kwavaka musha. Saka ndokurudzira vari kushanda vese shandai mese muchigamidzana kuti zvifambe, asi hazvinongonzi moa zvinotadza kuita asi bhozi takaberekwa nhova idzi tatangotamba tese nhova dzavara kudara atizvichidzana zvakanyanya, asi ngative nerimwe kuti atiite ende ati kugamidzana amainga marabha apiri zvichitokuenda chinhu chamukuita icho musaparadzana noti chisimbi mukaparadzana parasana namarabha inini ndave ndatanga kudhara marabha mwana mudiki kwandiri nevenhoro ndikabva kutaura sofa ndine 46 years marabha ari kuma 30 something naika tasaka mutauni marabha ndatosvika akagara so atosiwa nemuchimwe chikwata futichi pana first pepe taya marabha chiwaiwai kuno ngatipinde takadai masikisi kazhinji kacho kunyora chacho kunondinetsa, asi kufunga ndikwanisa kufunga, asi ndotonyora maguidelines tichibatsirana ita so kana pepa ndati marabha jiwesi malape bozawa zimboswana slides asati akuimba ndasangana naye I'm the first person kuti slides auye muno muZimbabwe Gebron sasi GWest malape Gebron sana kuti marabha ita ndodzigara GWest maona kujenza kwacho kando script futi maona mai saka ndoti aiwa unite tosimo ndakabata denga zvekuti kana bereka zonti kubata denga choti aiwa ngachirize TV moto vakatitakura tivataenda baba takashamisika takutobuda muTV ndipo muzhakoperera pana festival, asi nyika ikatambira ikati aiwa takutambira ende ive ndinovatambira bosi isi tirichi tirihove mvura ndo vatsigiri vedu, asi ndozvitenda izvo zvina nhasi ndoti ndakutozikamwo kana kafamba Kapfupi. Saka ndozvitenda chitenda musiki nenhepenya yedu, asi isusu takatanga tiri muna first meme takatanga tiripo kusvika I think dzimwe wakuda mari bosi takatanga tisikati mari taifamba netsoka, saka anzi mbudzi kuzvarira pavanhu kutandira imbo saka hanzi zoti ivo wacho vari kuti vakutanga izvo zvine but ine access yada kudzoka futi street ndingopefoma unongoona then go. Saka ndazoona bhozi radzoza 10 years zvakaoma netsoka kumba zviomba kusina upfu wanzi mauya nei ndifamba netsoka zvakuyepwedza ndikufamba chinhonga matombo zvikanda kushaya mari bhazi. Saka vari kuti iyo theater inofanira kudzoka zvakare tisazoti mukati mumutauni macho muchiri kubvumidzwa here kuti zvichiitwe zvakadaro tisazozivawo zvangu, asi nguva iyo taibvumidzwa asi chimboto maniswa fune nekanzuro sasikazoiti izvo zviri kubvumidzwa here kana kuti kana zvoda vakamukonya bijana yava vachikuona. Saka tauti street theater vari kutanga ngaidzoka paground bozi mumwe vanofanira kuona ndopa takaonerwa neZBC kuti tine vana ava vari kuita sei tambobvunza masisvikidzi, asi theater vari kutanga iko zvinhu izvi pinda mutauni uonekwe nevanhu kuti svike patiri izvozvi.
That was the story of Kapfupi, who is not only making an impact in his personal life, but also striving to push on the creative industry in Zimbabwe. And as you heard, he's got 2 individuals under his belt.
iAfrica searches for inspiration and innovation in all areas of popular culture, from fashion and design through to architecture, art, food, and travel. iAfrica searches for inspiration and innovation in all areas of popular culture, from fashion and design through to architecture, art, food, and travel.
Welcome to the second segment, and this time we speak to a young, vibrant lady who is into music.
And I hope you let me sit down and explain. Usaniteke, I won't cause you no pain. Diute when mudiwa wakaenda ku. Ditore wende nengati kurumite. I should, I could, I would, I wish I treated you better my way. Now you're no longer there, but I hope that you still care. If I knew what I know now, I wouldn't have let you down. You would still be in H-Town. I wish I treated you better. My way, my way.
Hi, my name is Eden Lang. I'm a singer-songwriter based in Harare. I write my own songs, I play guitar and produce my own music. And I've been doing music for about 10 years now. So being in music for a decade has been such an adventure. Like every adventure has its ups and downs, but I think when you're doing your passion, it is worth it at the end of the day. So I've been posting on YouTube like covers and originals, like I said, since I was 18. But I think I only started taking it seriously maybe 5 years ago. So maybe that's why I only started to appear on the map like 5 years ago. But yeah, it's been a journey. I think most notably, I got onto the top 40 on ZFM. Like that's like my most notable achievement. And yeah, it was just really cool to see people enjoying my music and putting it on the charts and voting for it. So yeah. So I come from a very musical family, and almost everyone plays an instrument, writes a song, or like does some sort of music. And so I was always aware of the music industry from as young as 10 years old. And I started to pursue it for myself when my dad showed me how to play guitar. And I played his guitar, and then I just like fell in love with the sound of guitar. And that's kind of what sparked the rest of my career. Yeah. If I wasn't a musician, I think I would be like a film director. Like I'm really passionate about animation and film and like, yeah, just producing stuff. So definitely somewhere in the arts industry, yeah. So I posted a cover on TikTok of Winky D's song Area 51, and that was like probably the first experience I had with virality. I think it got like 500,000 views in like a week. And it wasn't really something that I thought through, like, this is gonna blow up. It was just a song that I really enjoyed. And like, I'm a huge fan of his music and the way he writes his songs and tells a story. And so my focus was just like, I'm sharing a song that I really like, doing my cover, my rendition of it. And the response was amazing. Like, no one criticized it in the terms of like, you know, why are you singing Shona and you're not, you know, yeah, you don't look Zimbabwean or whatever. But I guess the biggest criticism was just my pronunciation, because pronunciation, like it's something I'm working on to this day. But I think my fans understand that, yeah, you know, I'm Zimbabwean, I'm part Shona and like part Dutch. That's where I get the skin tone from. And I just wanted to represent my heritage and also just like infuse my culture into the music. And it was something that I was hesitant to do at first. Like, majority of my songs are in English, just because it's not my first language to write in Shona. So you can't really write in English and then translated into Shona, like it loses the meaning. And there's just so many like beautiful expressions in Shona language that don't exist in English and you can't translate. So it was like a kind of like a hurdle for me to learn how to write in Shona. And so once I got over that hurdle and now I can, say the phrases and stuff, it's exciting for me. And just I'm so proud of being a Zimbabwean and just showing that this is my heritage, this is where I come from, and yeah, representing. I think if I was to sell anything from the Zimbabwean culture to the world, I think I would sell the food. Like definitely sadza's at the top of the list. Y'all need to try sadza, like it's lit. And then I would also just like share how warm and welcoming everyone is. Like anyone who comes to Zimbabwe says that we're just so warm and welcoming and loving people. And I think that's something I would definitely sell to the rest of the world. Okay. So my latest single, My Way, came out about a month ago. And I wrote it back in December and it was kind of rainy and like cloudy in Harare. So I guess that's what inspired like the chords and the sound and like the mood of the song. And for a while, like something that I do is I always record voice notes and like phrases in my phone whenever I get inspired to write a song. And so I had this phrase like, I could, I should, I woulda, and like that's how the song was born. It's just from that phrase. And then I just built around this idea of like wishing that you could have done something differently or like been a better person. And at the time, it wasn't my way. It was like, I swear. And I was going through this process of trying to infuse my culture into music. And so I said, like, what's a Zimbabwean thing to say that means like, I swear, but like in the Zimbabwean way. And that's how I got to My Way. So there's a process, but yeah, that's the gist of it. Yeah, so I collaborated with Mark Madzinga. He produced a song for me. I've collaborated with ASAP. He's a rapper from Bulawayo. And in the future, I see myself working with artists like Nati O, Winky D, people that have a story to tell in their music. And yeah, that's the future for me, I guess. So what I would like to say to Zimbabwean artists out there and like to the arts industry is just like, just keep promoting local talent. Like there's so many local artists that we don't know about just because maybe we're not listening to their music, we're not sharing it. So I would just like encourage more sharing, more listening and celebration of local talent. I see Eden with like a couple albums, gone on world tour, collaborated with like big artists outside of Zim as well, and just more. Yeah.
That was the story of Eden, who told us how music was engraved in her through her family. And of course, having had a father who was a musician himself, success was inevitable for her.
iAfrica searches for inspiration and innovation in all areas of popular culture, from fashion and design through to architecture, art, food, and travel. iAfrica searches for inspiration and innovation in all areas of popular culture, from fashion and design through to architecture, art, food, and travel.
If you thought niche fashion was not a thing in Zimbabwe, you need to rethink, because this particular brand is all about selling you one specific idea, and that's what they've been doing since inception.
Hi, my name is Danayi Madondo. I'm the owner of an independent fashion brand called House of Stone. It's a lifestyle brand focusing on resort apparel, and I define my customer as the conscious wanderer, person who explores the world, who is in love with apparel that is handmade and that carries stories. I think for me, my intention when I started House of Stone was always to create a homegrown brand to the world. I always knew I wanted to create a lifestyle resort brand that were for people of affluence, but still accessible to any person. The sort of materials that I use, such as cotton, linens, natural fabrics, are for that person who's going to be a hot climate. So coming from Zimbabwe, and developing these sort of like unique designs and taking them to the world to resort places like Mauritius, Cape Town, you know, those sort of spaces that bring you a sense of peace and relaxation. Those are sort of spaces that I believe my brand belongs in. Yeah. I think when I started off, it was chaotic. I have to be honest, I didn't know what I was doing, but over time I started to refine my aesthetic. I started to refine the sort of stories that I wanted to tell, even through my visual campaigns, but I call them visual poems. I knew I wanted to tell nuanced contemporary stories about Zimbabweans through the visuals that I delivered. But my apparel was always going to be very understated, sophisticated, timeless, and accessible for anyone, anywhere. And it's something that I came to with time. So I've actually grown within my journey as the owner of House of Stone. And it's been challenging, but I think Zimbabwe is one of those places, it's a space for people who have a strong vision, who persevere, who have a spirit that they want to continually learn, and I think that's what's brought me this far. It's so important. Like, I've often defined creatives as historians, as cultural conservators, because in a sense, when people look back at Zimbabwe in 2023, 2024, the stories and the clothes we create actually speak to the people during that time. It speaks to our aspirations, it speaks to what our overall vibe and intention was. So I think it's so important for Zimbabweans in our diversity of thought and expression to share those stories so that people can know that from this one Zimbabwe, all these expressions, all these ways of dressing came from us. And then it speaks to the future generations that come. When they look back, they have a reference that they can access that tells them about who they are, where they came from. I'm going to be someone's ancestor. So one day someone can actually look at me and be like, this is what my ancestor was doing in 2024. This is what inspired them. Dombo shower, binga baskets, cotton grown in Zimbabwe, woven by hand. You know, there are just so many parts of our culture and our practices that we can conserve through our artistic disciplines. So my presentation at Egypt in Cairo, underneath Canex, was absolutely incredible. It was almost like an accumulation of all the hard work that I'd put in. It's not easy to be from Zimbabwe and to find yourself on platforms and rooms with people such as David Klale, who have been known as who has been known as the king of fashion, African fashion, for the longest time. So to be able to be invited into those rooms, to share space with those people and to learn directly and to touch their product and to hear from them, it's an experience I feel like you can't pay for. And yeah, like I feel like I would like to also be able to provide that same opportunity to even younger creatives and to help them on their own journey in terms of how they tell their stories, how they brand themselves in order to also be identified, to be allowed in those rooms. Because I don't have $1 million. I don't have that. I don't have access to those things. All those things come with hard work and utilizing my talent and understanding the power of storytelling. That's what actually opened the doors for me to be in those spaces. So I hope I continue to do what I'm doing well, and I continue to be recognized, and doors will continue to be opened. As they opened for me, I also do the same for those that are following after me. I would say every day I'm inspired, not necessarily always by the established designers, but I think more so nowadays I'm more inspired by the emerging designers and their tenacity and their level of creativity. Because that level of creativity, even for example within film, when you look at the things that our film industry, our independent film industry is accomplishing with close to no resource, and then you compare it to maybe a Hollywood, sometimes you'd be thinking it's the same budget. So I think I'm inspired by those that do the most with the least. In terms of people like David Klale and established brands, I'm more interested in knowing how they did it. I want to know the 1, 2, 3s of how they got to the position in which they are in, what were the support systems that were there for them. That is what inspires and motivates me when I look at those brands, because I want to be in those spaces too. I want to be a Zimbabwean brand that's also seen internationally that can contend with those people, if not even Gucci, you know. So when I look at them, it's more aspiration. It's more like, give me the secrets. I want to know these fashion secrets so that we can share them with more people, so that more people can find themselves in a space of fashion success and not just notoriety, like a real genuine success where your livelihood is being sustained by your practice. African fashion is already evolving. Even like right now, when we talk about AI and the new technologies that people are now introducing, people are now even growing materials from their backyard. You're literally planting a seed. When you uproot that seed, it's a material that can be transformed. So I feel like Africa is the space for all these innovations to take place. We have the land to do such innovations, such as growing our materials, and not just cotton, literal like roots into clothing. And then even AI now. I sold my first NFT about 2 years ago for $300 US. This is a non-tangible garment. So you can see the shift that's happening within fashion, where if we are the early birds and we catch on to these like digital trends or ecological trends, which we have the capacity to accomplish, we just need the resource of technology and maybe even financing to support us, we can contend with these international platforms. So I feel Africa, everyone's looking to us, but we can definitely do a lot more in terms of the innovative space. In terms of culture, you can't contend with us. We own it. We are it. Yeah. The subject of fast fashion versus sustainability is actually one that I'm personally grappling with right now, because the reality is the business of fashion requires numbers. It requires it to move at mass to an extent. So as someone who's built her business upon slow fashion, sustainable concepts, made in Zimbabwe, there is this challenge where is the perfect balancing position for me to still have that within my brand, but still be able to upscale and meet the mass market in a way that is ethical. I got really amazing feedback the last time from one of our British Council representatives, and they said, sometimes you can't be everything to everyone. Pick which sustainable area that you want to focus on. If your sustainable area is going to be upcycling, deconstructing, do that, but figure out how to do it in a way that makes it accessible to more people. If it's going to be material, say my material is cotton, my material is linen, and let it be that. But ultimately, we're still figuring it out. I think the law of sustainability is a lot more exciting when you speak about it. It sounds beautiful, but when you bring it back to the commerce, there needs to be a sense of balance that needs to be found. And I think those conversations need to happen more so that we get to the answers that we need. Yeah.
That was the story of Danayi Madondo, obviously pushing the story of sustainability, not just in Zimbabwe, but all across Africa and across the world.
iAfrica searches for inspiration and innovation in all areas of popular culture, from fashion and design through to architecture, art, food, and...
So that was today's episode, and as you saw in the first segment, we had Kapfupi, the ever funny comedian, who not only was making an impact back in the day, but continues to carve out a niche for himself. And obviously we spoke to the young, vibrant, beautiful Eden, and we wish her all the best with a musical career. We closed it off by taking you through a journey that's on African fashion, speaking to the one and only Danayi Madondo, as she was talking sustainable fashion and projecting what fashion could be in Africa in the next 5 years or so. That was today's episode. I hope you are inspired to take on your creative journey and to find your roots as an African. I am your host, Nicole Jamu, and until next time, take care.
And innovation in all areas of popular culture, from fashion and design through to architecture, art, food, and travel. The focus is on outstanding individuals doing extraordinary things on the African continent. iAfrica presents creatives in their home nations, visiting renowned designers, musicians, architects who are leaving their mark on the young continent. From well-known brands through to ambitious startups, every week iAfrica seeks out the continent's best design and lifestyle innovations. Join me, your host Nicole Jamu, as we take a round trip across Africa and get you inspired, motivated, and future-oriented.